Is that one of the biggest barriers to adoption? I would think that. I mean, I guess my question would be, what is holding people back? And that obviously there is a competitive advantage to using big data, and in many different levels. Why, Stephanie, if you take a stab at this, why are people not flocking faster to it, given that it's the advantage that it could be?
Yeah, I think it's a reflection of just the challenge of having enough tooling around Hadoop and enough, right now you kind of have to be an expert to be able to use Hadoop, right? So organizations, I would say more organizations than maybe Fernwood are moving past the POC concept with Hadoop, and they actually have Hadoop in production, but it's for ETL workloads, and it still requires, if you're going to do analysis, someone who is a data scientist or at least likes to code or do some coding to access that information. And I think we're just on the early edge of really making it easier for the non-technical specialists to work with Hadoop data and integrate that with the databases they're working with and the BI tools they're already familiar with.
Yeah, it's funny. Just a quick one, Jim. I talked to these two analysts last summer, and they're talking about Hadoop and the skill set, and one was very firm, and he said to me, "Oh no, something that's holding back Hadoop is actually the lack of Hadoop specialists, and that's really causing a brick wall." And then, like 2 days later, talking to another analyst, either Forrester or Gartner, I'm not sure which, saying, "Oh well, people in-house could learn this fairly easily. They've got some developers in-house that could learn this." So there really is no skill set backlog. But Jim, go ahead. What's holding people back?
Stephanie made an important point. For example, if we focus on Hadoop, which is of course in many ways the foundation and fundamental platform that everybody focuses on for big data, it's not the only platform, and it was never intended to be for all use cases. Hadoop in the last 5 years became a substantial market and has migrated in terms of the use cases. We at IBM, our customers, use it for ETL, information refinery, for a queryable archive, for a data lake, for information, unstructured information governance. All these very critical, important niche use cases. Hadoop, that's Hadoop's core function. But other big data technologies, Apache Spark has come along on gangbusters for stream computing, for graph analysis, machine learning, and then you got, of course, R as a language. You've got lots of other things like Mesos and everything else in the whole open source analytic ecosystem under Apache and so forth that fulfill various niches within. In other words, a lot of people in this industry seem to think that Hadoop was somehow fated or destined to become the Uber platform for all use cases, and it was never intended to, and it's not going to be that, and that's not a bad thing. It's proven fundamental to many of our customers' analytics and application strategies as the core information refinery. Nothing else can replace Hadoop for that core multi-structured information refinery function.
Fern, would you point to anything in particular, or a couple of factors that you think are slowing the process down of adoption, or is it just a question of a new technology is going to be slow by definition?
Well, okay, I just want to say one thing first, is that
Please.
Big data does not equal Hadoop, as points out. I mean, there's lots of platforms, there's lots of aspects, to it. It's, to me, what good is collecting all of the data if you're not going to analyze it? That's my thing about it. But in terms of challenges that we see people talking about in terms of analytics and Hadoop and big data and any sort of analytics and data management sort of challenges, it always falls into the top one is always we don't have the skills, or we don't have the staffing for it. So that's always sort of that one comes out on top, very often. So they're worried about, rightly or wrongly, they're worried about the skills and whether they can get the staff. And then hand in hand with that, they're worried about they can't get the budget and they can't get executive support. Those are sort of some of the big top three. The business case isn't strong enough. We can't get executives on board. They don't want this, because maybe they're not seeing the business case for it and what the actual business need, is, which should be driving this as opposed to build it and they will come, that there's a need for this. So those are usually the top three, the skills, the budget, the executive support.
Well, I guess if I'm a big data developer or a big data vendor, and I'm hearing that, I'm going to say to myself, oh, I've got to go in and give a sales pitch that says my platform is actually super easy to use. You're not going to need an advanced skill set to make this platform happen. Is that not going on, Jim? Is that, don't the salespeople say that when they make their pitch?
Well, see, the salespeople in every company try to make the best case for their product or solution. You know, essentially, what it comes down to is that, you know, IBM stresses to customers that they need the right platforms for the right applications, but they need the right skill sets within their organizations. And there are specific skill sets that are critically important for leveraging the value of big data on whatever platform you use. Data science is critically important. Data scientists are, in fact, the app developers of this new generation. So what you're talking about here is that who builds the machine learning models that are the fundamental IP inside of cognitive computing applications for unstructured data, natural language processing? It's the data scientists of the world. So what we stress to customers now, one of the key things that you need to build skill sets within your development organization, bring more data science skills, bring more of the right kinds of tooling, like Spark, with the libraries of algorithms and models and so forth. And you need to educate your staff, your developers, on things like Spark. And then send them away to boot camps to learn how to do more agile development of, you know, big data applications inside of tools like Spark. And so a lot of it really focuses, like we did at Datapalooza, it's an ongoing series of boot camps, really 3-day community events where developers come together to get upgraded in their skills on the new generation of big data tools and to learn to build, you know, in an agile fashion, applications rapidly, to iterate. So it's really, a lot of it is just, a lot of our customers are saying, yeah, we need to just relearn how to develop applications in the era of cognitive computing.